The stage lights were warm and golden, casting a soft glow on Ellen DeGeneres as she sat in her signature chair. The audience buzzed with excitement, already clapping before the next guest had even stepped out. A large screen displayed his name, Keanu Reeves. Cheers erupted the moment he walked in, wearing his usual black jacket, simple jeans, and a shy smile that never tried too hard to impress. Ellen smiled and stood up to greet him. He gave a humble nod, shook her hand, and gave a quiet, "Thank you for having me." As always, he seemed almost surprised to be there, as if he didn't fully understand why the world still adored him. The interview started light. They talked about movies, motorcycles, and his love for books. Laughter filled the room as Ellen teased him about never aging and his serious looks in every film. But behind the laughter, something deeper was building. Ellen had planned this episode with care, not for ratings, not for drama, but for truth. After a pause, Ellen leaned in just a little closer. The studio got quieter. She looked into his eyes, not with curiosity, but with respect. "Keanu," she said softly, "you've been through so much. People know parts of your story, some loss, some pain, but you never talk much about it. So I want to ask you something simple, and you can answer however you want." Keanu nodded slowly, eyes calm, hands resting on his knees. Ellen took a breath. "What do you believe is the most important thing a person can do in this world?" The question hung in the air like a note from a piano, left to echo in silence. The audience stopped shifting. In their seats, the camera didn't move. Even the air seemed to pause. Keanu looked down for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, but it held something rare, something raw. "I think the most important thing we can do is to keep going, even when it hurts, even when no one sees us trying, and to be kind, especially when we have every reason not to be." There were no gasps, no dramatic music, just stillness, and a few quiet tears in the crowd. Ellen blinked, holding back her own emotion. "Why does that matter so much to you?" she asked gently. Keanu nodded, almost like he was remembering a place he hadn't visited in years. "Because I've seen what happens when people give up, and I've seen what happens when just one person is kind when they didn't have to be. That can save a life. I know that because it saved mine." Ellen leaned back slowly. The silence returned. Not awkward, not empty, just full of something too deep to name. Then, as if the moment couldn't grow heavier, Keanu shared something no one had expected. "I was 19 when I almost disappeared. I didn't want to go on. I was sleeping on a friend's floor, working nights at a fast food place. My father had left. My mom was tired. And acting, it didn't feel like a dream anymore. It felt like a joke. I thought I had nothing. But one day, one stranger did something that made me stay." Ellen's eyes widened, and the audience leaned in. "I was walking to work. It was raining. I didn't have a coat. A man in a red truck pulled over. He didn't know me. He just gave me his umbrella and said, 'You look like you need to be dry more than I do.' And then he drove away." Keanu gave a faint smile. "I still don't know his name, but he changed everything." Ellen looked stunned. "An umbrella?" "Yes," Keanu whispered, "because it told me I mattered, even to someone who didn't know me." The audience was silent, moved, in a way that had nothing to do with fame or celebrity. Ellen reached out and gently touched his hand. "You matter to a lot of people now," she said. Keanu nodded again, this time with a little more strength. "I know, but I think we should all remember, it only takes one act of kindness, one moment, and you never know who you're saving." And with that, the tone of the entire show changed. This wasn't a celebrity interview anymore. It became a story, a testimony of quiet pain, unseen resilience, and the power of simple human connection. Ellen wiped a tear from the corner of her eye. "Keanu, do you ever wish things had been different?" He paused again. "Sometimes. But then I think, if things had been easier, maybe I wouldn't have learned how to see people the way I do now. Maybe I wouldn't understand the value of kindness. So no, I don't wish for different. I just wish more people knew they mattered." And as the camera panned out, the audience slowly began to clap, not with excitement, not with noise, but with the gentle respect you give to someone who just opened their soul. What no one knew then was that this interview would go viral, not because of controversy, Not because of comedy, but because of honesty. And because of a man who had every reason to be bitter yet chose kindness instead. That one question by Ellen wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Because what followed would reach far beyond the studio walls. The next morning, social media lit up like wildfire. Clips from the interview were everywhere, short reels of Keanu's quiet words, the soft silence that followed his answer, and Ellen's stunned face. But it wasn't the fame or the lighting or the platform that made it spread. It was something deeper. It was the truth in his voice. Thousands of people across the world shared the clip with their own stories. I was about to quit school until I saw this. My dad left too. Thank you, Keanu. I didn't think anyone else understood what it meant to be saved by a stranger. His words made me cry. I needed to hear that today. In a small apartment in Ohio, a young man named Jesse sat at the edge of his bed, holding his phone. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. He had lost his job. His rent was overdue. And that morning, he had written a goodbye letter to his mother. But right before he was about to leave it on the kitchen table, something made him scroll through his phone one last time. That's when he saw the video. Keanu Reeves, Ellen DeGeneres, and that soft, steady voice saying, "Be kind, even when you have every reason not to be." Jesse stopped breathing for a moment. Then he deleted the letter, and he started crying instead. Somewhere else, in a train station in India, a woman named Amara was holding her daughter's hand. She was scared, homeless, and unsure where to go. But in that crowded place, someone's phone was playing the interview clip out loud. Amara listened, and she smiled for the first time in days. Meanwhile, back in Los Angeles, Keanu didn't know any of this. He wasn't checking trends. He wasn't reading comments. In fact, he was sitting alone in a small bookstore, holding a copy of a poetry book written by a woman who had died before she became known. That he had come here to breathe, not to be seen, not to be praised, just to feel real again. A staff member at the bookstore nervously approached him. She was maybe 21, with round glasses and a trembling voice. Mr. Reeves? He looked up gently. "Yes, I'm sorry to bother you. I just wanted to say, my mom saw your interview last night. She called me crying. She's never cried in front of me before." Keanu nodded. "How is she now?" The girl blinked, surprised by the question. "She's better," she said. "She said she wants to try again." Keanu smiled softly. "That's good. Tell her I'm proud of her." The girl nearly teared up, then quietly walked away. Just then, Keanu's phone buzzed. It was a message from Ellen's producer. "Can you come back to the studio? Ellen wants to see you. Something's happened." Keanu's heart slowed. Ellen wasn't the type to call someone back for attention. If she said something happened, she meant it. He got up, left a note for the bookstore owner thanking them for the silence, and headed to his motorcycle. At the studio, the energy was different, not buzzing, not chaotic, just still. Ellen stood backstage with her hands clasped tightly. She looked like she hadn't slept. When Keanu arrived, she pulled him aside and spoke in a low voice. "Keanu, do you know what's happening online?" "Not really," he said. "Your interview saved people. I mean it. We've gotten over 1,000 emails, people writing in from hospitals, shelters, even prisons, people who were going to give up, didn't, because of what you said." Keanu took a breath. "I didn't do anything special." Ellen looked at him. "Yes, you did. You told the truth. And now, someone wants to meet you, a young woman. Her name is Lucy. She flew here with her brother. She asked for 5 minutes of your time. That's all." Keanu nodded. "Of course." Ellen led him to a private room with soft chairs and warm lights. A young woman, maybe 17, sat nervously at the edge of her seat. Beside her was a tall, quiet boy who seemed more like a bodyguard than a brother. When Keanu entered, Lucy stood up quickly, nearly knocking over her water. "Double quotes, hi," she said in a shaky voice. Keanu gave his calm smile. "Hi, I saw your interview," she said, voice cracking, "and I wanted to say thank you. Because I was planning to end everything, like, for real. I had the date picked, but then you said we should keep going, even when it hurts." Keanu sat down gently across from her. He didn't interrupt. He just listened. I lost my mom last year, Lucy continued. Cancer, fast, and my dad's not in the picture. I felt like the world forgot me, like I was invisible. But hearing you talk, it made me feel seen, like maybe I matter too. Keanu reached across the small table and held her hand. You do matter, Lucy, and I'm really glad you're here. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Her brother placed a hand on her shoulder. The room stayed silent for a long time. Outside that room, cameras were waiting. Staff members whispered about the moment. But inside, it was just Keanu and Lucy, and a feeling no words could really explain. After she left, Ellen approached Keanu again. I think we should do something, she said. Like what? Let's start something real, something kind, not for cameras, not for ratings, something that helps people like Lucy, and Jesse, and Amara. Let's build something. Keanu thought about it. Then, for the first time in a long time, he smiled not just politely, but fully. Okay, he said, but only if we do it quietly. And so began something neither of them expected. Not a charity, not a foundation, but something deeper. And soon, the world would hear about it. Weeks passed, but something had shifted quietly, gently, like a ripple in a still lake. Ellen and Keanu didn't hold press conferences. They didn't post fancy videos or make big announcements. They simply met in private, talked with people who had stories to share, and started writing ideas down in notebooks instead of headlines. Ellen called it the Echo Project. Keanu preferred to call it something else, the umbrella. He said softly, because kindness shelters people, even just for a moment. Together, they designed something simple, a network of listeners. Not therapists, not influencers, just people trained to listen, to talk, to sit beside someone and say, you're not alone. They wanted it to reach schools, shelters, community centers, and even prisons. No lectures, Keanu insisted. Just presence. Meanwhile, Lucy began volunteering at a local shelter. Jesse, from Ohio, emailed Ellen's team asking if he could join the Echo Project. Amara, the mother from India, reached out too. She didn't have much, but she offered to help translate the materials for free. The movement was growing, not with noise, but with care. But then something unexpected happened. A well-known news anchor from a major channel found out about the Echo Project and released a story. It wasn't cruel, but it was loud. The title read, Keanu Reeves secretly building emotional support network. With Ellen DeGeneres celebrity therapy, people began debating it online. Some praised it, others mocked it. This isn't therapy. One comment read, this is Hollywood nonsense. Just another rich guy pretending to care. He should stick to acting. Ellen was used to that kind of heat. But Keanu, he went silent for 2 days. No calls, no texts. Ellen finally drove to his house. No security, no gate, just a simple driveway with a cracked sidewalk. She found him sitting on the porch, feeding a stray cat. Hey, she said. He looked up slowly. They're laughing at it. Let them, she replied. You know what it's doing. I know what it's doing. And Lucy knows. That's enough. He nodded, but the heaviness in his eyes stayed. Keanu, she said carefully, can I ask you something? He nodded again. Why did you really agree to this project? He looked down, then up, then away. Because once someone listened to me, and it saved me, and I never got the chance to say thank you. Ellen was quiet for a moment. Then she sat down next to him, hands in her lap. Do you remember their name? She asked. Double quotes. No, I don't think I ever knew it. They sat there for a while, just listening to the wind. Then Keanu looked toward the horizon. We should keep going, he said. And they did. They opened a small pilot program in Los Angeles. 10 listeners, 10 chairs, a room that felt more like a living room than a clinic. People came. A man who had just lost his wife, a teenage boy struggling with his identity, an elderly woman who hadn't spoken to anyone in 3 months. They didn't come for answers. They came to be heard. Keanu didn't run the room. He just sat sometimes, listened, handed out tea, made sure there were tissues nearby. He never tried to be the star. In fact, most people didn't even realize he was the Keanu Reeves, and that's exactly how he wanted it. Then one evening, something happened that shook him deeply. A young boy came in, maybe 12 years old. Small, quiet, wearing a hoodie to sizes too big. His name was Malik. Keanu offered him a chair. Malik sat, looking down. No one spoke for a while. Then Malik said softly, "I know who you are." Keanu smiled gently. "Okay, my dad used to watch your movies." Before he left, Keanu nodded slowly. "Do you miss him?" Malik shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Sometimes I think if I was a better kid, he would have stayed." Keanu leaned forward just a little. "Malik, you being better or worse didn't make him stay or leave. That was his choice, not your fault." Malik looked up. "People always say that." "I know," Keanu said. "But I'm not saying it because I'm supposed to. I'm saying it because I've felt the same thing." Malik blinked. "You have?" Keanu nodded. "My father left too, and for a long time, I thought maybe it was because of me. But later, I realized some people leave because they're running from themselves, not from you." Malik sat very still. Then he whispered, "I've never told anyone that before." Keanu smiled gently. "Thank you for trusting me." Malik nodded, then said, "Can I come back?" "Anytime." After Malik left, Keanu sat in that empty chair for a long time. The lights dimmed around him, but he didn't move. Because for the first time in years, he felt like the pain he had carried quietly all his life had a purpose. Not to be famous, not to be praised. But to remind others, you're not broken. You're just human. And maybe, just maybe, being human is enough. Malik kept coming back. Every Tuesday afternoon, rain or shine, he would show up at the Echo Room wearing that same oversized hoodie. At first, he just sat quietly. Then slowly, week by week, he began to talk. Not loudly, not dramatically, just little pieces. About school, about the silence in his house, about how he missed his mom's cooking before she started working too. Jobs, about how he felt invisible. Keanu always made sure he was there. Not as a celebrity, not even as a mentor, just as someone who understood what silence could do to a heart. One evening, as Malik was leaving, he turned back and asked something unexpected. "Do you think people like us can ever be happy?" Keanu paused. "I think happiness isn't a place. It's a moment, and those moments are real, even if they don't last." Malik nodded slowly. "You ever had one?" "Yes," Keanu said, softly. "Once, when I was sitting on the beach after my sister passed away, a little girl ran by and handed me a flower. She didn't know me. She just smiled and kept running. I still remember that flower. It lasted 5 minutes, but that 5 minutes kept me going for months." Malik gave a faint smile. "I'd like to have a flower moment someday." "You will," Keanu whispered. "You just have to stay long enough to see it." Word of the Echo Project continued to spread, but not through fame. Through whispers, through stories passed from person to person. "I went to that room and cried for the first time in years. I didn't even talk. I just sat there, and it helped." They don't try to fix you, they just let you be. Ellen had started funding new locations, quiet spaces with soft chairs, warm tea, and no judgment. Keanu made sure they weren't branded, no big signs, no pictures of him or Ellen. Just a simple symbol at the door, a small hand-drawn umbrella. But not everyone liked it. A famous TV personality criticized the project on live air. "This is not mental health care. This is reckless. Who do these actors think they are?" Others online began saying Keanu was hiding behind sad stories to gain sympathy. Ellen received pressure from her team to shut the project down or at least distance her name. But Keanu never responded publicly. Not even once. Instead, he kept showing up at the Echo Rooms, quietly, faithfully. He wasn't trying to be a savior. He was just trying to be present. Then something unexpected happened. A letter arrived, handwritten, no return address. Ellen opened it first, then called Keanu. He met her at the studio. She handed him the letter with shaking hands. He read it slowly, his eyes scanning every line. The words were neat, thoughtful, written by someone who had taken their time. "Dear Reeves, I don't know if you'll ever read this. I hope you do. I'm in prison right now. I hurt someone a long time ago, and I live with that every day. But last month, someone came to our unit and played your interview. Then he told us about the Echo Project. I listened, and I cried. I hadn't cried in 20 years. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted to say I'm trying. For the first time, I'm trying. Because you said we matter, and maybe even people like me can matter again. Thank you. Signed, J. Keanu didn't speak for a long time. Then he folded the letter slowly and looked at Ellen. We can't stop now, he said. Ellen nodded. No, we can't. Together, they took things further. They reached out to Jay through the proper channels and offered to start an Echo pilot program in the prison if allowed. It took months. There were background checks, government approvals, meetings with wardens. But finally, it happened. Keanu walked through the heavy doors of the prison with no cameras, no guards at his side. Just him, holding a folder of letters written by people. From the Echo rooms outside, he entered a small room with 12 inmates seated in a circle. One man stood up, tall, bearded, eyes tired. I'm Jay, he said. Keanu nodded gently. Thank you for your letter. I never thought you'd come, Jay said. I never thought I'd get a letter like yours, Keanu replied. They sat, they talked, not about crimes, not about pasts, but about pain and shame, and the fight to stay human in a place designed to forget that. After the meeting, Jay said one more thing. You know, you're not what I expected. What did you expect? Keanu asked. Someone louder, someone who acts like a hero. Keanu smiled faintly. Heroes are usually just people who stayed alive long enough to help someone else. And with that, he walked out of the prison quietly. No spotlight, no statement. Just a man carrying the weight of stories that no one else wanted to hold. That night, back at his home, Keanu sat on the floor, looking through drawings and letters from the children who had visited Echo rooms. One stood out. It was from Malik. It was a crayon drawing of a red umbrella over a small boy's head. Under it were the words, "You helped me find my flower moment." Keanu held the paper to his chest, and for the first time in years, he cried, not from pain, not from loneliness, but from something he hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. The Echo Project had now reached 5 countries. Without a single ad, without any fame, only through people passing stories, sharing chairs, and offering umbrellas. Where there were none. In one small village in Brazil, an Echo room opened inside a wooden community center. It had no air conditioning, no fancy lighting, but it had warmth. Locals came, sat on old chairs, and talked to strangers who became family. In Tokyo, a group of college students started a version of the Echo Circle in their dormitory basement. Their motto was simple: don't fix me, just sit with me. In Cape Town, an elderly woman who had never left her neighborhood gathered 3 friends and opened their living room every Sunday afternoon for anyone who needed to talk. They called themselves Echo Grandmothers. Back in Los Angeles, Malik was now volunteering. He didn't wear the hoodie anymore. He wore a simple t-shirt with a small umbrella stitched by hand over the heart. I want to be what you were for me, he told Keanu. You already are, Keanu replied, smiling. But just as the ripples of good were growing, a storm began to form. One of the Echo centers in New York was accused of giving unauthorized mental help to someone who later attempted self-harm. News outlets jumped on the story. Headlines twisted the facts. Keanu Reeves project under fire. Dangerous emotional therapy. Ellen and Keanu's kindness experiment might have gone too far. The Echo Project was being called a liability. Lawyers advised Ellen to step away from it publicly. Her team warned that continuing could cost her reputation, her brand, maybe even more. Keanu sat across from her in her office, the weight of the moment between them. Ellen looked tired. They're calling it irresponsible, Keanu. They're saying we opened a door we're not qualified to walk through. We never told people we were doctors, Keanu said softly. We only said we'd listen. I know, Ellen whispered, but they don't care. Keanu paused, then said, do you want to stop? Ellen looked at him, and for a long time, she didn't speak. Then she said, I was thinking about that man from prison, about Malik, about Lucy, about all those quiet people no one sees, and I realized they need us more than I need comfort. Keanu smiled faintly. then we stay. But the storm didn't pass easily. Funding was cut. Permits were questioned. Legal teams sent warnings. Volunteers got nervous. People started pulling away, not from malice, but from fear. And then, one night, something happened that no one expected. Keanu was walking home after visiting a small echo circle in Santa Monica. It was late. The streets were quiet. Just him, the soft hum of city lights, and a worn-out backpack on his shoulder. As he passed a corner, a woman approached him. She looked tired, with deep lines on her face, but her eyes were steady. "Are you him?" she asked. "Depends," Keanu said gently. "KeanuReeves, the one with the umbrella thing." He nodded slowly. The woman stepped forward and took his hand. "You saved my daughter. She was going to end everything last year. She saw your interview, and now she runs an echo group in Detroit." Keanu's eyes softened. The woman continued, "Don't stop. Please, I don't care what the news says. You gave me back my child." Keanu's voice cracked. "Thank you. I needed to hear that." She nodded. "I think maybe we all do." The next day, Keanu released a quiet statement, not on TV, not in front of reporters, but in the form of a letter posted on the Echo Project website. "We are not healers. We are not saviors. We are not experts. We are simply people who believe in sitting beside someone when they are drowning. Not to pull them out, but to remind them they're not alone in the water. If that's dangerous, then I will take the risk." The letter went viral. This time, not because of drama, but because people recognized truth. Doctors, teachers, janitors, artists, mothers, even a group of veterans, thousands of them posted their own stories with the hashtag Umbrella Heart. Soon after, donations returned. Volunteers came back, and something stronger than media took root: faith. Not in a system, not in a brand, but in each other. Ellen walked into the Echo Center a few days later and found Keanu cleaning the tea corner. "You know," she said with a smile, "most people would have quit." Keanu chuckled softly. "I'm not most people," she grinned. "Thank God for that." Then she handed him a small package. "What's this?" he asked. "Open it." He tore the paper gently and found a pin, small, silver, shaped like an umbrella. "We're giving these to every listener," Ellen said. "Not as a badge, just as a reminder." Keanu stared at the pin, and his eyes turned glassy. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded. "Yeah, just thinking about the man in the red truck. He gave me an umbrella once, and he didn't know that he gave me a reason to stay alive." Ellen placed a hand on his shoulder. "And now," she whispered, "you're doing the same for thousands." He didn't answer. He couldn't. He just held the pin close to his chest, and somewhere deep inside him, the broken boy who once slept on a friend's floor finally felt whole. 1 year later. The Echo Project had quietly changed lives in more than 20 countries. No red carpets, no interviews, just rooms, simple, soft rooms with chairs that never judged, and people who didn't try to fix you, just sat with you. The umbrella symbol had become something more than a logo. People began wearing it as a quiet sign, like a secret code. It didn't mean I'm strong or I'm successful. It meant I'm here, and I care. In small towns and big cities, strangers began to sit beside people who were crying, not to ask questions, not to offer advice, just to be there. And the world just a little began to feel less cold. On the anniversary of the interview, Ellen planned something special. She didn't tell Keanu about it. She just sent him a time, an address, and a simple message: "Just trust me. Come as you are." Keanu arrived at a quiet community hall in Los Angeles. He was wearing his usual black jacket, faded jeans, and kindness in his eyes. As he stepped inside, his breath caught. The room was filled not with cameras or reporters, but with people from Echo Centers around the world. They had flown in on their own money, some even taking buses, just to be there. Malik was there, standing tall, now helping lead youth programs. Lucy was there, her eyes bright, now studying psychology. Jesse from Ohio, Amara from India, even Jay from the prison, now released and working in outreach. And in the center of the room stood Ellen, holding a mic, but she didn't speak first. Instead, she invited person after person to share. A teacher who found meaning again after burnout. A widow who survived her grief because a stranger sat with her. A teenager who stopped cutting herself after someone handed her tea and listened. Keanu sat in the front row, hands folded, tears in his eyes. None of the stories were about him directly, but each one carried a piece of him, the umbrella he once received, now passed on 1,000 times. Finally, Ellen spoke. A year ago, she began. I asked one simple question, and a man sitting here answered it in a way that changed lives. She looked at Keanu. You once said that kindness can save a life. Tonight, we just wanted to show you the lives it actually saved. The crowd turned toward him, clapping, not the loud, fast kind of clapping, but the steady, quiet kind, the kind that says, we see you. We thank you. We'll carry this forward. Ellen continued. Keanu, this isn't an award. It's not even a tribute. It's a reminder that the smallest thing, a soft word, a shared silence, a hand on a shoulder, can echo farther than you'll ever know. Then Malik walked up and handed Keanu a small wooden box. Open it, he said. Inside was a folded piece of paper, old, a little torn, but carefully preserved. It was the original umbrella drawing Malik had given Keanu a year ago. But now, he had added one more line under the flower. And now I'm helping others find their flower moments too. Keanu's hands shook slightly. His lips parted, but no words came out. He didn't need to say anything. He just stood, walked up to the front, looked around at the people who had come. And then, he whispered into the mic, thank you for proving that kindness still matters. And if you're watching this, wherever you are, hurting, hiding, waiting, please know, your story isn't over. Not yet. Not if you're still here. The room fell into silence. And then, slowly, everyone in the room stood up, not because someone asked them to, not because of fame, but out of respect. For the boy who once had nothing, for the man who chose kindness, for the truth that even the smallest act can echo forever. The next morning, the video went online. And once again, it wasn't drama or headlines that made it go viral. It was humanity. Keanu Reeves didn't walk off stage to applause. He walked into a crowd of strangers who now felt like family, and he hugged them, one by one. That night, back home, he placed Malik's drawing on his wall, and above it, he wrote four small words. This is the reason, because one simple question had opened a door, and one quiet answer had changed the world.